What's up, guys? Welcome back to the FU Money Podcast. FU, Dane.
FU, Hugh.
As you can tell, we are nearly through these beers.
Yeah.
Which means that we just talked about another topic, and today was 401k matching specifically, not just 401ks in general.
It was actually really good.
Dane, what did we do today?
Well, all of us have come across a situation where either we have heard of a 401k, we've been offered a 401k through an employment opportunity, and 401k matching. We dove into the details, why or why not you should take advantage of a program like that, and what happens if you get fired.
And we used very simple stuff. So in this, and again, if you're watching the video version on YouTube or something, you see this beer here. Yeah. There's a glass with beer in it. We used visual aids, so you clearly understand what's going on. Yeah. And we talk about what is Roth. What if you have a 403B? What if you have a 457B? What if you have a TSP? If you're in the military or work for the government. This is a jam-packed episode, so listen all the way through. And again, as we are continuing to move forward, we are getting more drunk. So bear with us with our shenanigans. We'll get to it right now. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the FU Money Podcast. FU, Dane.
FU, Hugh.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Dane's a little behind. As you can see, we already did a previous episode over, what was it?
Bank fees.
Bank fees are annoying.
Super annoying.
Today, we're going to go into something else. This really should be after your emergency savings. So it should go like, I don't know anything. Where should I start? And then you should do like pay yourself first. And then emergency savings.
Also good.
And then this episode, which I know they're released in the incorrect order. I apologize in advance, but
sorry about that.
Shit happens. So
it does. But to get to it, we're going to be talking about 401ks and employee matching vehicles.
Okay, let's do it. I know a fair amount about this. The laws are always changing, so make sure you verify anything. Don't listen to random strangers on the internet, even if they have beautiful facial hair.
That's what I was thinking. So one thing I will say, if you go the traditional W-2 route, there is a high chance, if you work for a good employer, that there will be something called an employee matched 401k option. And there are pros of going down that road and taking advantage of that. And there might be some negatives too. So first of all, I want to ask, what the hell is that, Hugh? You've worked for one of these cool companies that said, hey, we're going to match some money if you put it in this fund or this account.
Right. So the first thing I was going to say is 401k is a section of code in
the IRS code book?
I think it's the IRS code book. Yeah. Something like that. Whatever.
Sounds official.
Someone's going to be angry in the comments about whatever I say, but it's a section of code. But also 401k is for a normal company that's either publicly traded or not. 403B is for a not-for-profit. So if you let's say you work for a school or a hospital, then you have access to a 403B and a 457B, but that'll be its own standalone episode.
Yes.
And if you work for the military or the DOD or the government,
cheers to you,
then you have access to what's called the TSP or the Thrift Savings Plan. All of the things I'm saying are going to be very general around that, but they are basically retirement accounts.
Yes.
So that is what a 401k is. It's the most quoted term, I think, is 401k, but all of them can kind of be similar. Mm-hmm. But 403b is just the same as a 401k. It's just about public institutions.
So someone like me, who knows nothing about that, let's say I'm a newbie employee to a great company, and they're like, hey, we have all this fancy stuff you probably never heard about. And one of those is an employee match 401k. Do you want to contribute? I mean, that's how it happened to me when I was like, I don't know. Do I want to contribute?
You do.
Okay.
I'm making the decision for you.
Tell me why.
Okay. So first off, that's what I would do. You do what you want. It's your money.
Fair enough.
Personal finance is personal.
Fair enough.
But I would highly encourage you, because it's a 100% return. Even if the choices are garbage inside, it's free money.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? If you contribute $1, we'll match $1 up to X percent. So for me, a very common one was up to 6%, we'll match 6%.
That's a good one.
Some will match 0.5% up to 6%.
Or 1/4%.
Yeah, or 1/4%. And then there's scales. Every company is different. So find out what it is for you or institution. So if I contribute 0.5% of your salary, of your take home, there's two types of 401ks or 403bs or TSPs. One is traditional and one is Roth. Roth is post-tax, which means you're already taxed on your money up front. And traditional is pre-tax, which means if you make $100,000 and you contribute $10,000 to your 401k, then you, on paper, only made $90,000 that year.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a cutoff point. And I think right now, in this day and age, I think it's $147,000.
Think so.
Where mathematically it makes more sense to contribute to a Roth below that. And mathematically it might make sense, talk to your CPA, if you contribute above, if you make more than $147,000 a year, then you might want to go traditional.
Right.
That's not going to be most people listening to this. So I'm going to talk a lot about Roths.
Yeah.
Which you probably should do. And sorry for the UK and Australia audience. I know a lot of you guys listen, but there's probably some similar thing. They exist because I think it was the 90s, 80s, something like that. It was very common for companies to have pensions.
Yeah.
And companies wanted to push the responsibility of retirement away from the pension where the company was responsible and towards you saving for your own retirement. And so Congress created the 401k and 403b and whatever retirement savings account that if you save your entire working career until I think it's 65 and a half at this time, that it will grow tax-free in these accounts. And so they are a special type of account that exists. They are not a specific investment. They are a special type of account that exists. So if a bank says, or if a company says, I have a 401k, you want to match to it, what they're saying is, we have a brokerage company, we have a brokerage firm that we're contracted with.
Sure.
That brokerage firm has an account for you that you can sign up for. And that is called a 401k or 403b or TSP plan, which is its own thing. Now, do you want to contribute to that? Any dollar you put in there will match up to X dollars, up to X percent. And so that is what one of those is. It is a guaranteed return on investment.
Sure. Well, and you're saying, hands down, yes, you would recommend, in your opinion, putting money in a company matched 401k.
Yes. In my opinion, I would do that. Most of the time, it benefits the executives the most. And the executives generally aren't going to screw themselves over. So they're going to strategically do things that are in their advantage, and you get to be a part of that. And so it's a guaranteed return on investment. Again, a traditional Roth, let's say that's the same $100,000 and you want to contribute $10,000. Well, for easy math, let's say you get $100,000. Well, congratulations.
Nice.
Taxes hit, you get $70,000. Then you want to contribute $10,000 to your 401k, Roth 401k, or 403b, or TSP. Then you only have $65,000 for the year.
So quite a jump. I mean, for someone to be motivated enough to do that, one, you have to be financially committed and disciplined. It's not every day that someone's willing to take another chunk out of their account, out of their pay, and put it into something else. But you're saying because there's a little bit of free money, a little carrot dangling at the end,
right,
they should consider it.
Right. And it's basically guaranteed free money if you can. Now, if you're married and filing jointly, you can do some crazy stuff. Like let's say let's say there's a terrible plan with your husbands or they don't offer one. And then you're the wife and you've got an awesome one. Maybe you say, I want to contribute 100% of my income for the first 3 months until I hit that number, which is, I think it's like
$12,600. Oh, for married people?
No, I think it's $22,000 per person.
Per person? Whoa.
It used to be $18,500. I think it's $22,000 as of 2024.
Okay, so things have changed.
So yeah, they're definitely very different from back in the day. So you can contribute at a max amount and that takes it off of your income, or from a Roth perspective, you contribute after-tax dollars. Dane, why would you want to contribute after-tax dollars instead of just taking the before money?
That's a great question. So I like to use the seed and the field analogy. Okay. Would you rather be taxed on a bag of seeds or on the field that grew as a result of planting those seeds?
I mean, if it's not a trick question, I'd rather be taxed on the seeds, because if I'm taxed on the field, then the field will contain all of the plants that then had those seeds, which is probably going to be a larger amount.
Absolutely. So the government did not make that a sneaky equation. They said, do you want to be taxed on the seeds in which you plant or the field after it's grown? So when you look at something like a Roth IRA, you are only being taxed on the seeds.
Right, it's meaning that my normal income, I'm going to work, I'm going to get my W-2.
Yes.
I'm going to be taxed on it then and today.
Yep.
But then whatever it grows to, what happens?
then you can take it out without a penalty if you follow the rules and you take it out at the right retirement age. You, in theory, well, in reality, would be able to take that money in which you've grown now to a beautiful field and sit on that without the government sticking their sticky hand into it.
Right. So another way to put that is you are growing from whatever the money is before all the way to as long as it can possibly go. When you take the money out, it's not taxed.
Absolutely.
So if I put in $100,000 and whatever, so I just made some good guesses and it went wild and I've got $10 million in there.
Good for you.
I'm not taxed on it.
Yep.
That's a Roth. And that is my suggestion of why you should, in my opinion, go for a Roth, even if you are, but unless there's a strategic reason, I would go for a Roth. And if there's a strategic reason, that doesn't mean that you might know about it. So many friends of mine just don't know. And money is talked about so little that they actually should be contributing to a traditional and they're not. But even more people are contributing to a traditional and they should probably be contributing to a Roth. So just know Roth is post-tax. You've already paid taxes on it, but you'll not be taxed when you're retired.
Yeah.
I know what taxes are today, but I don't know what taxes are going to be in the future.
Right.
So I anticipate taxes to go up.
So you're kind of future betting and future planning. Really, it's the younger, smarter man's game where you're thinking ahead. And even when I walked into that benefits meeting with HR and they're like, do you want to do this or do you want to do this? No one said, here's what that means. They were just like, hey, we have an employee match program. Do you want to donate it to it? You can do Roth or traditional.
Right. And you're like, Roth, that sounds scary.
Yeah.
Traditional, that sounds like lots of people have been doing it.
Yeah.
And then they don't think about it. And then now that's 50 years later. 50 years. And
you have to owe tax on that.
Yeah.
Well, and if you do just the simple math, like you said, under a certain wage and you accumulate 10 million bucks, imagine having to pay tax on a load of cash that large.
Right. And traditional, they're going to force you to take it out. I think at age 70, they force you to take distributions. Maybe before then, I can't remember. But check it later. Again, lots of people will be angry. Let me know in the comments how we got it wrong. But that's the gist of it.
Well, cool. Okay. I do appreciate you walking through those differences, but I am most interested in now I'm Mr. Smart Money Man. I've decided to go down the Roth path. But not all Roths are created equal. And someone, a little bird, told me, well, you know that your Roth is just an account, meaning that account and those funds can be invested in something that actually makes you bigger returns. What the heck was he talking about? Okay, so can you hand me that glass over there? Sure. Let me finish this really quick. And there we go. Okay, so for the video folks, you guys are seeing this, but for the audio folks only, an empty glass in front of me that Dane has just finished drinking. So imagine this. The 401k matching is going to be, for every little bit of liquid beer you pour in, let's simulate this here. A little bit of liquid you pour in, your company is going to match. Mr. Employer? There you go. There you go, good sir. There you go. That's how 401k matching, 403 matching, TSP matching works. Congratulations. We just poured beer into a glass, by the way. Okay, so that's what you're doing. Can I drink that? But you should. Go for it. Thank you. But your 401k is just the glass. It's not what's in the glass. What's in the glass depends on whatever company you went with, which, in my opinion, probably is garbage or trash. If you work for a massive company, like I used to work for Phillips 66, they had Vanguard, awesome company to work with. When I worked for PepsiCo, they had Fidelity, awesome company to work with. Every other company has been some Edward Jones baloney crap that they give. And so the short answer is, I'm going to give you a caveat of most to least likely. If you have the opportunity to go into investing in VTSAX, FZROX, or some of these bigger ones, those are going to be, they buy the whole stock market all at once. Whoa. So you're telling me that my post-tax Roth IRA account can be invested into some of these great tools on the stock market? That's actually shockingly, horribly understated. So yes. Wow. The money goes in here and then that is invested in the stock market. What is it invested in? That's going to depend on whatever bullshit your company had set up for you. Hopefully they were not taken advantage of by Edward Jones and all these other companies that do stuff. Hopefully they have options that are good for them. So your Fidelity and Vanguard, the larger companies, unlike banks,
go watch our previous episode about bank fees. The larger the company that you do business with, the better off you're going to be in what your selections are. So what gets to be in your glass depends on what that your company, which you don't have a say over, gets to select and pick. Most are against you. So I'm going to give you some, I wish I was in these if you can, but if you're not in these, here's some rules of thumb to look at.
Excellent. Well, and I do like the beer analogy because it's something so easy to see that someone adds something to the bucket, the employer adds the second bit, well, now you have it in an account, but we're going to walk through what you do with it.
Yeah.
One of Hugh's strategies that he actually shared on a previous bonus tip is what he actually invests in. And one of those things in which I believe you started with your Roth, but now you just invest in directly is VTX?
VTSAX.
Yes, VTSAX.
So VTSAX is the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund.
Yeah.
That is now like Kleenex is to a wipe. I don't
Runny
know.
nose?
Yeah, runny nose. What do you call that? So we don't even know. I know the word Kleenex, the facial tissue or whatever.
Okay.
Or Band-Aid is to an adhesive medical strip. Right?
Gotcha.
Everyone says, here's a Band-Aid. Band-Aid is a brand, but what it does is an adhesive medical strip. So VTSAX is the OG. It's the big dog. It's the old dog, old timer in the room. And it basically buys everything in the stock market. So for the last 100 years, the stock market has returned on average 10 to 11% over the course of history. So if you buy into that and just forget about it, right? You can't touch these accounts. You can't drink the beer until you're 65.
Man.
It's just going to grow, compound, become more beer. When you're 65, you get to drink the beer.
A lot of
It's going to grow at a rate of 10 or 11%. If you can get into VTI, Vanguard Total Index ETF, or VTSAX, which is the same thing, except for it's going to be a mutual fund. You're going to know. If you have Vanguard, you have access to this. If you have Fidelity, then you have access to FZROX, which is basically their competitor to VTSAX, which destroys VTSAX. It's far better. It's free. And it's free because they're trying to get you on their platform so you can spend money other ways. But that's what I would do. The beer I would have in the glass is VTSAX, FZROX, VTI, or VOO. Those are the things I personally would have in there if I have it.
Well, you've heard it from the man himself.
Which I would, verify.
So we talked a lot about, obviously, the differences between these accounts. You can now put this money and invest it as a vehicle into some of these other great assets and different things. The everyday person, again, who's like, what the heck are they talking about? I just put it into the thing that they told me to, and it does stuff.
Yeah.
We're talking about what the stuff is and why it's important, and that you actually have control over that stuff.
Yep.
Now,
I'm gonna go in one more thing.
Okay.
I don't know, a large percentage. My personal companies or two don't have access to this because you're not big enough as a small company to offer this. If you don't have any of the things I just talked about, here's some rules of thumb. Look for the highest return mutual fund with the lowest expense ratio. Just ask the person, whoever is in HR, to get you that information. VTI has a 0.04% expense ratio. So if you invested $1 million, they're going to charge you $400 a year to manage it. FZROX has $0. If you don't have access to that, a lot of companies are charging you 1% or 1.2%. So to blow that up, if you have $1 million, they're charging you $12,000. But if you are in this account and this account is good, you can't drink until you're 65, then they're charging you $12,000 every year until you're 65.
That's
but
crazy.
That's not where they're robbing you. They're robbing you in that this could have grown, and they're robbing you from all your future returns. That's why I generally don't like it. So we'll only contribute up to your 401k until you're at the match.
okay.
And then move forward. If you are in TSP, the glass I would personally use, this is my personal opinion, the beer in the glass, is I would do 75% C fund and 25% S fund. That is mimicking kind of VTSAX or FZROX. But there's no fees. So that's what I would do.
What about the people who don't have a company that's going to offer them an employee match and they're like, hey, I make money or I'm an entrepreneur. or business owner, and I want to take advantage of some of these accounts and these funds, how do they go about doing that?
That's a great question. So I think the question was, what if I'm an employee, I work for this company, and they have a 401k, but they don't do matching?
They don't even offer a 401k.
If they
You
don't-
are the person who has to go out and find a 401k.
I'm so glad you asked that question. That is its own episode. So stay tuned.
Nice.
If you don't have one. But to answer the question you had, or that I would ask is, what if I have a 401k for my company, but they don't offer matching?
Would you still take advantage of it?
I would not.
Ooh, why is that?
I would not take advantage of it because I don't have the guaranteed return. If I pour some beer in, you pour some beer in. If I pour a half glass, you pour a half glass.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, I'm going with more control over where my money goes.
That's a really good example. I actually have another bonus question for you. Let's dive a little bit deeper, okay? Not only does your company not offer it, or sorry, let me back that up. Let's rewind. Let's say your company offers it. It's been great. You've been riding the gravy train. You're putting up to 6%. They're matching 6%. You're putting it into all these cool funds, and you're making another 10, 12% on top of that. Life is good. And then in some weird change of events, either you find yourself unemployed because of the political climate, or maybe you were a shit employee and they let you go, and you find yourself no longer with that wonderful employee match opportunity.
Right.
What in the world happens to that account?
So the short answer is that glass with however much beer in it exists forever. If you've left 5 companies, then your beer is in that glass at those old companies. You can, by law, roll over all of it. Let's say, again, this is just for those on video, but let's say I have glass with a little bit of beer in it. Let's say I have 4 glasses with a little bit of beer in it. You're allowed to roll it over. Tax-free. You can pour all those glasses of beer into the 1 cup of your current company. Now, let's say you get fired from that company. You just leave it alone if you want.
Okay.
Just don't do anything to it. It'll continue to grow. In the event that you get to go to a different company, then you can take that company and you can roll that over into that new company if they have good benefits. Awesome. Or you can just leave it alone. Sit there and grow. Let's say you left it as 4 individual cups with a little bit of beer in them. You can still let that grow over time. Mathematically, it's identical.
Okay.
Depends on if they were in the accounts.
But one would most likely roll all those over into one account, followed up with the new employer matching or not matching. They now would have the ability to continue to fund it.
Correct.
And if you don't have an employer who could help you set that up, that's a conversation that can happen with the CPA, just to throw that out.
Yeah. You set up a brokerage account or a Roth IRA account where you do a rollover. I think there's also a backdoor rollover, which we'll get into later.
Awesome. So go ahead.
All right. The last thing. A lot of people, let's say you work, and I'm going to switch beer glasses here for this. Let's say I'm pretty far along and I work for company A, but I want to buy a house or I've fallen on hard times. Instead of drinking the beer in the beer glass, which is allowed, but the government's going to take their share, right? If you want to drink the beer in the beer glass, they're going to drink a little bit. They're going to punish you for drinking it before 65. You can go to a bank and say, yo, bank, I've got all this beer in this glass. Can I borrow a little, I don't need much. I need a little bit of beer from the glass. And the bank will say, you know what? Cool. I'll give you some beer in this other glass, completely different account. If you screw me, I'm taking the beer in your big glass. But if you return all the beer in this little glass, you can have it. So that is a way that you can borrow against it. Because if I take the money, if I drink the beer in this glass, then you're screwed, because then you're going to hit it with taxes and penalties.
Absolutely.
But if you don't, and you just borrow the money against that, and you go buy an investment property, or you go buy your personal home, or you go pay down your personal debt or your credit cards, then you are borrowing money with that as collateral, but you actually are not touching it. So you get to keep all the money in the glass, you have the money, and you have to be responsible enough to return the money to that glass.
And the only disadvantage of doing so, and it's not even a disadvantage, the only thing to be aware of is that you will pay the bank or yourself some profit margin for borrowing that money against yourself.
Correct. And that is going to be its own completely separate video, which is going to be a solo 401k.
Yeah.
And you can lend the money. You can do all kinds of stuff. You owe yourself money. You pay yourself back.
Yes. And you can do this if you have a TSP. So what a lot of the military community does takes advantage of a very similar program where they borrow money from themselves to invest in a duplex or a house hack or somewhere else. And then upon returning that, they pay themselves some sort of fee. And it's pretty nominal at that point, where they are then returned, the money's returned, and they never lose their 401 that they've been building up to that point.
Or TSP.
Yeah. So wonderful episode coming up on that. That's one I'm really excited about. And what this looks like in the real world, you guys, my brother-in-law right now is in the middle of trying to secure 2 duplexes here locally. And when he went to the bank, they said, well, you need all this money, and you can get a gift from family, you can do all this, but your down payment is pretty sizable, I think on $600,000. So where's that money going to come from? Well, he had an IRA, he had a Roth that he just went and took from. He was like, I'm ready just to pull it out because I need the money. They said they need it within 3 days.
Did he already do it?
Yeah, he just pulled it. And he lost 30%. And the day before he did it, I said, stop. You can borrow against yourself and pull it as a personal loan. He's like, I've never even heard about that, and I have no time. And so he bit the bullet, and he paid 30% on his money to pull that out.
Don't be that guy, and sorry in advance, Dan's brother-in-law.
And I understand the situation he found himself in with pre-approval letters and all of these moving parts. He needed money quick, and that was the best way he could reach into a bucket and take it, but he paid a hefty price. What that would have looked like in this scenario is effectively borrowing from himself without having to pay a large penalty or even having to bother family to add to the bucket in which he could then acquire the asset.
I'm shaking my head right now, if you guys can see it in the video, if you're not, but this pains me because it's someone that we personally know or you know, and they shot themselves in the foot and they didn't know any better.
Not only did he not know any better, I didn't know what he was doing to put all of the money he needed together. Otherwise, I would have just said, hey, hang on for a second, there's a better way. And we would have had time to plan that out. To your point, don't do things in such a way, if you can help it, where you don't have to pull from a bucket so quickly that you pay bank fees or penalties.
And he was in such a rush that he totally got hosed. And I'm going to give you guys a secret. The world does not run off of deadlines. It's not 8th grade. You're not going to fail because you didn't turn your quiz in on time. You can just be like, I need an extension to get this together. And I bet you he wouldn't have lost the deal. And he still would have gotten the money. And he would have just said, I got proof of funds. You just need more time. And they're going to massage it. But this, like when it comes into the world of investing, in the world of like being financially independent, you just have to be aware, pay attention, and know more than other people and speak with confidence. Yeah. And if he would have lost it, so what? There's more deals out there. He wouldn't have. I guarantee you he wouldn't have. Yeah. But just saying, here's my proof of funds. Here's a screenshot of what I have. I'm going to borrow against this. I need an extra 1 week. They would not have said, they would not have killed a $650,000 deal because this guy's got to borrow against it. They would have given to him like that. But
what I learned from that is the majority of people don't even know, first of all, the different types of 401ks and employee matches. There's the world of finance can be confusing. There's a lot of moving parts. But on top of that, some of the benefits, the best unheard of benefits, people just have no clue how to take advantage of.
And not only that, and you guys aren't this because you're listening for some reason. Thank you for listening. But when I talk to a parent or some shit like that, or your mom, or you're talking to your aunt, they're going to be like, you can't do that. That's illegal. They have no fucking idea. They're so ridiculous. Like there's so much misinformation, and then there's so much like big banks, big institutions. They don't want you to know this information.
Yeah, they're trying to scare you to death.
We're telling this information to you because this is what worked for us, and we have pretty decent track records.
Yeah.
And so anyways, that is it for 401ks, 403bs, or TSPs. We're going to do a dedicated TSP episode with a guest. We already had a little bit of one with Mr. David Perret.
That was a good one.
In the military. Go check out episode 4, I believe. If you haven't. And but we're going to do a dedicated one, deep diving into some of these others. We're going to do a dedicated 457B plan. But the short takeaway, high level, I would invest, do your emergency fund. Immediately after that is max out your employee matching. And when that's done, then go do something else. Don't continue to contribute to this.
And if you think this is cool, wait until we tell you how you can do this for your kids, and they don't have to have a job. That's where the magic happens.
I think they do have to have a job, but there's things you can do.
Correct. And you can prepare them in life to take advantage of these tools. So by the time they reach retirement, it has already been so taken care of and the habits have already been so built in and ingrained that it never even crosses their mind, like not being fiscally prepared for the time that comes.
And I'll rephrase a little bit what Dane was trying to say is, you may give your kids an allowance right now. Instead, you can do some bullshit on paper and pay them a salary, and then that goes into an investment account. We did the numbers this morning. I think it was $1,000.
Yeah.
If your kid has $1,000 invested and he was age 15, and by the age 65, he'd have...
And he invested $100 a month.
Just $100 a month into FZROX or VTI.
Yep.
So you had $1,000 at age 15, and you just put $100 a month in, nothing else. He was a huge piece of crap, couldn't drive, couldn't read, couldn't do anything, garbage, human, but contributed $100 a month to that account. At age 65, he'd have $2.9 million.
Yeah. And we did this example based upon the program we set up for my son, who was in a similar situation, similar age, and we knew that just by producing the habit of something as little as $100 a month for life, where he would be at. And it was actually far greater. Yep. But that was what was amazing. We want to share that information on a different episode because it's so good. It's not just about you, it's about your family and your posterity and what you can build for them. So,
guys, remember, until next time, F your finances. Cheers.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, Hugh and I really, really try to deliver value in these episodes. So if you learned something, you thought something was funny, you enjoyed a guest, please hop on to wherever it's being hosted, whether that's Spotify or Apple, and drop us a 5-star review. If it's anything lower than that, email us separately. We may or may not respond. But at least all of the things that we did right, let us know. And truly, if we did anything wrong, or if there's guests that you want to see, we aim to please. And you just want to be a guest on the podcast, how can they get a hold of us?
If you want to be a guest or ask us any questions, you can email fumoney@hughcarnahan.com and let us know. Again, we read every comment that comes our way. We actually have 2 or 3 super exciting ideas for shows that have already come our way. Again, we appreciate everything, guys. Remember, real quick, we are not experts at anything. This is not financial advice. Make sure you do your own due diligence. We are for entertainment and educational purposes. Don't listen to random strangers on the internet. We hope to share our message to get it as far as we can to normal, everyday folks, blue-collar folks, military folks. This is information that all of us should have. And so if you liked it, please share it. Guys, we will see you in the next episode. Woo!